Well, it's here. The update to the Dirt Midget tire that we have all been waiting for. So, how did iRacing do? Well, find out next. What's up, everybody? Thomas Brandon here. Thank you very much for joining me as always. And like I said, we're going to be taking a look at version 2 of the new tire on the Dirt Midgets. Now, really quick, just to kind of clarify so there's no confusion. When I talk about the old tire, I'm referring to the tire that we originally had on the Dirt Midgets, at the start of the year, all of last year. Okay, that's the old one. When I talk about version 1, that's the new tire model that we got, a month or two ago that like nobody liked. And then when I talk about version 2, that is this current iteration of the tire model. Now, just some backstory and some context. With the old tire model, the Dirt Midgets were hands down my favorite car on dirt, and it wasn't even close. I absolutely loved these cars. They were the closest to real life in terms of setups. I mean, a lot of the setups that I built for the Dirt Midgets, whether they were the free setups or the insider setups, they were based off of real life setups that I used to put on Dirt Midgets when I was running, as a mechanic and a crew chief on, USAC teams and stuff like that. So they were much more accurate in that department. Now, with the old tire model, though, there was a couple of downsides. First and foremost, although the car had good drive, good forward bite, it always felt like you were on top of the track. It felt like you were driving on sand. It was a really, really hard thing to explain. Yes, it had good drive. Yes, you could really get hammered down with it and the car would go, but it never felt like you were in the track. It felt like you were just kind of skating on top of it. Now, when version 1 came, if you remember, I did a review of that and I said I might be the only person who likes this. Now, in that, I talked about how it definitely needed improvement. The forward drive was not good. We were having to run, minimum pressures and put 15 gallons of fuel in the tank for qualifying just to get some forward bite out of the car. But I thought that the tire was a step in the right direction. It had much more side bite. The car had a lot more action to it when you were actually able to run it. And there was definitely some upsides to it. And so what we've got now is we've got the improvements of that. And what we have now with version 2, I really, really like. Now, I've been doing some testing. I also, some other people in SSR have done some testing. I kind of talked to them. They told me kind of what their thoughts were on it. My man, Shay Paulo, he ran for about an hour, put a post up in the forum and stuff, and I read through that. And so I kind of wanted to test the stuff that they were talking about, do a couple of different things. And the data came back really, really good. I've been looking at it in Motec. I updated the Motec workbook that I've got in case they had changed, the center of gravity, things like that. There are a couple of physics changes, I guess would be the way to call it, that they've made. It does seem like the vertical center of gravity or the weight transfer in the car seems a little bit different. It does actually seem better. The fuel sensitivity is gone. You no longer need to run 15 gallons in your tank for qualifying, which was stupid. But, overall, the car is really, I like it a ton. I absolutely love it. It is back at the top of my list in terms of my favorite dirt cars. I had always said that if there was ever a pro series for the Dirt Midgets, it's the one car I would try to run, to become a pro in. And that, it's back at the top of the list. I absolutely love it. Now, that being said, we're going to run a couple of tests. I'm going to show you a couple of things that I've seen so far and noticed. And, going forward, I'll do a whole lot more testing. Keep in mind, we just got this thing. Today's my first day even driving it. We got it yesterday. I did not have a chance at all to drive it, but for maybe 5 minutes. So in the future here, in the very near future, I'll be doing a ton of testing because we do have the new season that's starting and I've got to have good setups for the insider program, stuff like that. So I do have a lot of testing planned for this and I'll be kind of running this thing through the ringer. And doing a lot of A to B comparisons and stuff. But for the most part, I wanted to test just a couple of things because this would be really kind of the key to knowing what we've got. All right, and so the main thing that I wanted to test in this video is the tire pressures, particularly the rear tire pressures, and then also the rear torsion bars. So with the old tire model, if you ran super soft bars in the rear, the car was not good. It was incredibly unstable. It just would just sway. It almost felt like it didn't have shocks on it. Like it just was not good. If you were to run lower than like 750s, the car it just did not feel good. Now keep in mind, maybe you could fix that with different shocks and stuff like that. I never tried because I just thought it felt so bad. I never messed with it. Then when we got version 1, you would have to run really soft bars just to get any kind of forward drive, and you were having to do all these different, all these different shenanigans just to get some drive out of the car. And even then, you never could get to like full throttle. You just sat there and spun the tires. But now you can actually put some soft bars in it, and it locks the car down like it should, which is really, really good. The other thing is the tire pressures. You see, in real life, when it comes to tire pressures are an adjustment. There is no set in stone tire pressure. It's not like, up, track slicking off, it's the feature. We need to run 8 and 6. That's not what you do, right? And your tire pressures are greatly affected by your bars, your shocks, how much weight you got in the car, different things like that. Because you have to keep in mind, your tire, particularly the sidewall, is nothing more than a spring. That's what it is. It's a spring with a contact patch. So when you change those tire pressures, it changes the spring rate of that corner. All right. And so, for example, if you're running an 800, bar in the right rear and you've got 10 pounds of air, and let's just say, for example, when the car goes into the corner, it's generating 500 pounds of force on that right rear corner. Okay. Well, if you soften that right rear tire to, let's say, 7 pounds, now the force that's going to be generated in that corner is not going to be that much. In fact, it might drop down by half. The reason for that is because now the suspension is not what is absorbing that force. Now, part of that force is being absorbed by the tire, because like I said, the tire is like a spring. So when I did those tests and saw that data and saw it change, I was really, really happy, because that's a really good sign. That's what you want to see. And I'm going to show you these tests and a couple other things that I tested with these cars and give you kind of my final thoughts on them. But overall, I really like it. I think it's really, really good. And I'm looking forward to racing it. I'm really excited. We have a league race tonight, and I can't wait to run it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So anyways, let's hop in, do a couple of tests here. So first and foremost, one of the best things about this is that all the free setups that I had just redone before the new tire model version 1 came out that became junk when that tire model came out are now okay again. So they will be available on the website. You can actually go there and download them. Just go to schoolsimracing.net, scroll down to free content, click the button, fill out the form, and you can download the free setups. And it's for all the dirt tracks. So if you want to do that, you can head over and do that. I've got the Lernerville base. We're at Lernerville right now. And as you can see here in the rear, we've got 10 pounds in the right rear, 8 pounds in the left rear. We're just going to leave it. We're not going to change that. We're going to leave the car as is. We're on a 35% track. With the new tire, one of the things that I noticed with the Midgets is the track is not slicking off as much as it did with the old tire. Now, that could change with this one. We'll definitely know more about that tonight in the league race, because I'm expecting us to have a lot more cars. But, with the old tire, with the Midgets, the track never got as slick as it did with like the sprint cars or the late models or anything like that, because the cars don't weigh as much, they're not as powerful, and they don't have as big of wheels and everything like that. So the track never got as slick as those other cars. But when we got that new tire model, it was really bad. I mean, you would run 30 cars on it, and after 3 heat races, consolation, and the feature, the track would be maybe 40%. Like, the track just didn't slick off. So I've got it at 35%. They're slick in the corners. We got a top, we got a bottom, which is a pretty good test for these cars. We'll have to wait and see what happens going forward, but that's what I've got it at right now. So let's go out. Let's turn a few laps. I'm going to record this in my telemetry. We'll take a look at the Motec data as soon as we run a couple laps. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my standard testing that I always do. So we're going to do 2 laps around the top, 2 laps around the bottom. Actually, we're going to do, to save time, we're going to go 1 lap around the top, 1 lap around the bottom, and then 1 lap right through the middle, okay? And actually, we'll go 2 laps around the top, because this first lap is kind of to get the thing up to speed. And I'm going to be hard on the throttle. I'm not going to be babying it. I'm going to really be trying to drive this thing. Now, the car definitely feels, when it's gripped up, when you point this thing, it goes. But you can drive it with the throttle, which feels good. I like that. That's what you want to be able to do in a dirt car. I got into the slick there a little bit. So we did the top, got the bottom. You can see there coming out of the corner, the car's got a little bit of a push. You've got to use that throttle to turn the car and rotate it. If you're pushing coming off, that thing's just going to plow up the track. All right, so let's go through the slick here. About 75% throttle right through the middle of the slick, which is good. The car's not, it's not like it's on ice. All right, so overall, not bad. I mean, that feels pretty good. To be able to take the car right through the middle of the slick like that and still have grip is an improvement. If you remember on the old tire with any of the cars, right? It didn't matter if it was this, late models, whatever. If you went right through the middle of the slick and you were at 75% throttle, that car snapped. It just spun. So the fact that this thing still has grip, that's what you want to see. In real life, when you hit slick, it's not like hitting black ice, okay? You spin the tires. Yes, if you go too fast, you could actually get loose and spin, but it's not like you just hit ice and all of a sudden just woo, 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 going down the freeway, right? So getting rid of that is huge. I think that'll definitely make for better racing, and it'll make people more comfortable in joining races. There's a lot of people who literally don't race the dirt cars because they're afraid of the track when it gets slick, right? It gets slick and they're worried they're going to wreck. So I think that's an improvement. So the first thing that we're going to do here is I want to see, we have 13 and 12 and we are 48.2. So we're just going to drop the tire pressures down 3 pounds in both rear tires. Now that changed our cross weight a ton. So we're going to need to get these ride heights fixed here along with the cross weight, and we're almost there. Let's go right that, and that's close enough. Okay, so we went down 3 pounds in both rear tires, and what I want to see is there a huge difference in our wheel slip? Once again, I'm going to be hard on the throttle like I was with the tires at 10 and 8. And then does the car grip up? Is it real twitchy? Does it feel splashy on the rear end? That type of thing. It's definitely got more grip in it, as you can see. But how is it at speed? Let's find out. So you can definitely feel the softness in the rear end. The car's wanting to kind of rock a little bit. Now that might change as the tires get up to pressure. Car's definitely biting. You can see the roll in the car coming out of the corner there. Picking up the front end. Let's go through the middle of the slick here. About 75% throttle. Trying to get this as close to the other ones that we did. Car got a little bit more loose there. All right. So not bad, pretty good. You can see the car's definitely got more bite in those rear tires with the softer pressures. Now, that could be also just based on the fact that it's softer and so the car's rolling more, okay? That could be, that could have something to do with it instead of it just being grip, all right? But let's pull up Motec here. Let's actually pull up our last two ones that we did. And we'll look at that, and we'll look at that. And these should be our last two. And so we've got that one and that one. So the red lines are with 10 and 8. The white lines are with 7 and 5, okay? And first of all, looking at the lap times, we're pretty close, pretty consistent. 16.2, 15.9, 16.8. We have 16.0, 15.8, and 17.1. So, you know, on average, if you average it out, to be roughly the same. Keep in mind, you know, this is a test. We're not trying to be our, you know, have our fastest laps. We're just kind of testing data. So we'll go lap 2, 3, and 4. And looking at the numbers here, this is exactly what I want to see. When we look at this, you can see on the rear right here with 10 and 8, our dynamic loads, right, on the left rear, we had 255 pounds of force on the left rear, 348 on the right rear. When we softened the tire pressures, when we lowered those pressures, the left rear dropped by 100 pounds in terms of force. Remember what I talked about earlier. Now the suspension, that force is not being there at that corner. These dynamic loads are based off of the movement of the suspension, right? Because if you think of a torsion bar, it's just a fancy spring, right? But if you think about a spring is rated based on the movement, right? 500 pounds per inch, meaning it takes 500 pounds to compress it an inch. Torsion bar is the same way. It's just radians instead of an inch. So with this, because we've got the lower tire pressures and the tire is now softer, right? That sidewall is softer. The tire is absorbing more of that force instead of the suspension. Okay? Now, this is a good thing. We want to see this. This is how vehicle dynamics works. At least that's what I was taught forever. And so unless the people who taught me are wrong, and I don't think they are because they were some of the best in the business, especially out here in California, then this is a really good thing. This is what we want to see. Now, when we look at our side bite and forward bite, those numbers overall are pretty much the same. Our side bite here, we had 213 with the higher pressures. We had 228 with the lower pressures. We would expect to see that. We'd expect to see a little bit more side bite with softer tire pressures. Forward bite, right, the dynamic forward bite is the same. So we were getting the same drive essentially with those softer pressures as we were with the higher ones. Now, when we look at our wheel slip, which is really what we want to, that's the thing, right? How much are those tires spinning? And we compare that to our throttle. We average 76% throttle with 10 and 8 and 73% with 7 and 5. That's within margin of error, right? I mean, that's within margin of human error, me being the human that's erring. Our wheel slip numbers are within a mile and a half. A mile, 1.5 miles per hour, 2 miles per hour, which is really, really close. And when you consider a 3% difference in throttle, that's within margin of error. So that's really, really good because that tells me that you can really experiment with your setup. You can really change a lot of stuff. Maybe you want to run higher pressures. Well, that might let you run softer bars, right? Or you want to run softer pressures and you can run stiffer bars. Or maybe you want a combination of both, right? So there's a lot of stuff that you can do. And this gives you the freedom to do that. And you actually can feel and see the change, which is huge. It's a really, really big step. So I really commend and applaud iRacing for this. They've done a really, really good job. This is just a huge improvement over what we had with the first version of this tire. All right. Now, the next thing that I want to test real quick is the bars. So we did those laps with that setup, and we had 10 and 8 on the tire pressures, all right? And we were running 800 bars in the rear. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop these bars down to 750s. Okay, and we're going to need to adjust these again. Up another half a turn. And then 48.2, and that's pretty close to where we were. It's not exact, but it's close enough. We were at 13 and like 12, and we're at basically 13 and 12. Okay, and our cross rate was 48.2. We're at 48.2. All right, so we're pretty much right where we were. All right. So now let's see how the car reacts with softer bars. Now keep in mind, when you run softer bars in real life, all right, the car is softer, right? But it's not an unstable nightmare like a ship rocking on the ocean. That's not the way that it should act. That's how it was with the old model. Okay, so let's see how it is now with this. So the car, just in that first corner, I can tell you now, the rear definitely feels more locked down. You can feel it in the steering. car definitely feels more locked down. Now you can see we got much more of a push coming out of the corner there. I was not on the throttle as much as I needed to be to get the car to finish that rotation. All right, so the car definitely, you can feel that it's softer. You can feel that in the wheel, which is good. That's what you want to feel. You want to be able to feel the dynamics of the car. I mean, there's a lot of information being relayed through the force feedback wheel, but you could feel that. You could also feel the car, the rear end was locked down. When I say that you can feel that it's locked down, when the car is stiffer in the rear, when you move the wheel, right, compared to when the rear end's softer and you move the wheel, there's a a difference in how the car feels, right? The car when the rear's locked down, the car feels like it's going straighter when you turn the wheel. All right, it's something that's very hard to explain, it's hard to describe, but you can feel the difference. And so that's good. That's what we want, right? We want to be able to lock the car down when the track gets slick. So let's take a look at the data now. And we want to do this one and this one. And first of all, lap times. So before, with the tire pressures and the 800 bars, we were 16.2, 15.9, 16.8. This time we were 15.9, 16.1, 16.9. So basically, once again, almost the same in terms of the times if you average them out, right? And keep in mind, once again, human error, right? Not going to be perfect. But overall, the lap times are pretty close. And now looking here at the data, you can see the changes and the differences that I wanted to see, and that's really, really good. You can see our front loads have changed, which you would expect to see since we softened the rear that much. The rear loads, once again, now on the rear, much more force. So remember, on the left rear, we had 255 pounds of force with the 800 bar. Now it's at 343. That's because on that left rear, it's squatting more, right? And this is based on the movement. That's how it measures it. Keep in mind, more force does not mean more traction, more grip. Okay, it just means more force, right? You still have to be able to control the throttle and the car and everything else. On the right rear, we were at 348 with an 800 bar. Now we're at 503. So the car's definitely squatting more when you're on the throttle. It's definitely, like I said, locked down, which is good. We want to see that. Our dynamic side bite, not much change there, 213 to 211. Our dynamic forward bite, though, we went from 107 to 95. So actually a little bit less on the forward bite. Now keep in mind, that could be the way I was driving, things like that. So that's something to keep in mind. And primarily, side bite and forward bite are largely due to the vertical center of gravity and the roll and stuff like that. So because it's softer, when we're at throttle, the car is probably, like I said, it felt locked down, so it's probably going to be squatting more. Therefore, our forward bite is not going to be as good. Okay, so that could be the difference in that. And then wheel slip, almost once again identical. The throttle difference was about 4%, and our difference in wheel slip is 2 miles per hour. So really, really good data here. I mean, I really like what I see. I love what I feel. The car feels really good. I think it's going to be very, very racy, which is something that I've been wanting to see with these cars. And I think we got it, man. So overall, I think iRacing did a very good job with this new tire. It's not just a step in the right direction. It is a huge leap in the right direction. I really like it. I think it opens the door to a lot of possibilities in terms of setup and driving style and things like that. When I was doing some testing earlier, I noticed a lot more parity in terms of lap times between, if you're running high and middle and low and stuff like that, which is really, really good. There was certain tracks where, you were basically just like, this is the line you ran because it was fast with this car. So I'm hoping it's going to open up more racing lines and just more, better racing opportunities. So overall, I really like it. I think they definitely fixed the problems that we had before. Is it perfect? No. But you know what? Nothing is. And like I said, this is a huge, huge improvement over what we had with the first version of this tire. So once again, hats off to iRacing. I think they did a good job. I really like it. The car's got good side bite. You can feel it. You can feel the changes, feel the differences. And it should, like I said, open up the opportunity for you to really experiment and do a lot of stuff with your setups and try different things. And even if you miss your setup, and this is the thing I like the most about it, even if you miss your setup, if you can figure out a way to drive it, you can still be competitive. And that's the thing I like the most about it. Now, keep in mind, before I say goodbye, this is all with preliminary testing. I still have a lot more to do, but so far, I really like it. And tonight, I'm looking forward to racing it. So that's gonna do it. That's my thoughts on version 2 of the new Dirt Midget tire model. But as always, thank you very much for joining me. Now, really quick before I go, do me a favor, please. If you like it, you know what to do. Hit the like button. If you don't, hit the dislike button. Just let me know. And then also, comment down below. Let me know what you think of the new tire model. All right? Let me know if you like it or don't like it, and what your thoughts on it, that type of thing. And then if you want to actually get my free midget setups, they will be available on the website, schoolofsimracing.net. There'll be a link down in the description below. Just scroll down the homepage to the free content section, click on the button, and then you can download that, plus my free sprint car setups, big block setups, late model setups, that type of stuff. So a ton of free content on there. So go check it out and get it, and make sure that you join the SSR mailing list and the SSR Discord, because we got a ton of stuff coming this season. And not just on dirt. I got road racing stuff coming, asphalt ovals. I got a ton of stuff coming. If you think SSR's been busy the last 12 months, it's about to get 10 times more. So we got a ton of stuff, man, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun the second half of this year. So if you want to be a part of any of that, check out all the links out in the description below, and make sure that you join me tonight for my live stream. All right, because we're going to be running midgets and non-wing sprints. It's always one of the funnest nights of the week, non-wing Thursdays. Looking forward to it. So make sure you check that out. Be live streaming here on YouTube. But that'll do it. Thank you very much, as always, for joining me. Until next time, I want to wish you good luck, good racing. Take care.